Chances are you've heard the interim public health director, Dr. Luc Boileau, over the past week or so kind of talk around the fact that we are or may be in a sixth wave of COVID. What we haven't heard a whole lot about is what's been going on in schools. So you might have heard that in the healthcare system, there are many, many people now off the job. Some of them, we assume many of them, because of COVID. That's what we're beginning to find out. But, you know, Natasha, I think back to a couple of weeks ago, or now I guess 3 weeks ago, when we were talking about spring break and saying, wow, the government moved too quick. Let's wait to see what happens in 2 or 3 weeks from now after the kids have already been back. And now we're starting to see those numbers come in. Olivier DROUIN is the creator of COVID Écoles Quebec. He has done an amazing job of keeping parents up to date on exactly what the situation is in our schools, much more so than the government. So we want to just get you an update right now on what is going on. Olivier, welcome back.
Great to be back.
So let's talk about what is going on in schools, because we're not hearing a whole lot about it. At least I have not heard much about it right now. So what are the statistics telling us?
The statistics as compiled by the government are absentees, right? So they actually count and they ask the schools and parents to tally the absentees, and then they categorize them by COVID or non-COVID. That's where the data gets a little blurry. But what we've got so far is, as of today, or dated March 24th data collection, there was 100,219 kids out of school. 16,000 of those, 16,400, were for COVID-related reasons. If we look at the trend in the last, let's say, 2 weeks, since maybe a week after the return from March break, we see the curve going up quite a bit. So we see about 20,000 more absences in schools. As you know, the mask was actually removed. The mask mandate was removed on March 7th when the kids came back. So we can correlate directly with the numbers that are starting to creep up in terms of absences since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we want to just clarify the number again, right?
Because so I'm sort of gobsmacked here. Did you say over 100,000 kids are out, but then only 16? Well, give us the numbers again, Olivier.
Yeah, so if you take just the number of kids that are out of school, so absent from school, it's 100,219 for all sorts of reasons, and that's actually the problem. So 16,400 of those are coded as being absent for a COVID-related reason.
Confirmed, okay.
But yet you're dependent on the data capture at the source. Is it accurate or not? What you could say is that the number of absences in total has kept going up at least by 20,000 in the last 2 weeks. So it's obvious that it's a mix of COVID. And give you an example, a lot of the people are saying there's gastro running around, but gastro is also symptoms of the BA2 variant. So it could be a mix of COVID non-declared as well.
Okay. And what do we know about teachers or other staff at schools? What's the situation there?
The teachers' numbers are also going up. As of today, I think there was 1,199 teachers that were absent and 769 other personnel that are absent for COVID-related reasons specifically. So it's like almost 1,200 teachers that are out for COVID.
Okay, so those are across the province, right? What kind of a
picture?
Exactly,
about 3,000 schools, so it's across the province. Yeah.
Okay, and do we have a bit of a picture as to what it looks like in Montreal specifically?
No, I don't have those numbers, unfortunately. Okay. They don't exist. They don't split it out.
That's the problem, isn't it?
So I'm wondering at this point, I don't know, should I be shocked by those numbers? They seem really, really high. And again, we were expecting things to get worse. So the government's sort of not yet confirming that we're in the sixth wave. What are we to make of that, by the way?
I think we are in the sixth wave. I think school absences as an indicator could not be used because there was 2 weeks across Quebec where there was a school shutdown for the March break. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there was no reporting. But since the reporting started back on the 15th, you see the numbers go up up exponentially every week. So the school absences is one factor. I know they're looking at the number of staff in hospitals that are also being absent for COVID-related reasons, which is going through the roof. So these all of the key indicators in the province are going up and have been going up for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't think there's any doubt that we are already in the sixth wave or at the very beginning of it.
So then I would ask you to comment on the fact that nobody seems to want to admit that this is a sixth wave. They're saying it could be. We won't know for a couple of weeks. What kind of damage do you potentially think that might be doing just by not being upfront about it?
I don't know why they're not being upfront about it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's what's happening in real life that's important. And for me in schools in particular, it's the fact that this 5-day isolation, for example, that you've heard Mr. Boileau hesitate from one conference to another, one press conference to another. What happens is that you are contagious for 10 days or at a maximum 10 days, but we're really seeing everybody out in schools and at work after 5 days. So there's maybe 20, 30, 40% of those that are going to school with COVID. And they're being asked to put a mask on, but I mean, it's not foolproof. Then the siblings are not isolated anymore. So you have a brother and sister that has COVID. You can go to school. There's no isolation anymore for that. Of course, there's no mask in school. So the semantics of being in a sixth wave or not, what I can tell you is that school cases are creeping up, and they're creeping up exponentially. So we are in a school wave that is going back. It's not obviously not at the stage that it was in January in terms of the numbers that we can count, but because again we're blind, the only thing we can rely on is school absences as tallied by the government. So the official COVID PCR tests no longer exist, and there's no more letters coming out to parents.
Right. The kids were sent home with the rapid tests, and the protocol has changed so many times at this point, Olivier, that I have to admit that I'm not entirely clear on what it is. I did know something about the symptoms, that if they're not displaying symptoms, they are allowed to go back to school. Do kids not have to test negative with those home tests now before they can go back to school?
Yeah, it's actually 2 tests, 24, 48 hours. When they have symptoms, to make sure that they don't, their viral charge is null, so they don't have the COVID. I've been personally as a dad, I've been struggling with this as well, and I have 2 daughters. I think every other week I always have a rapid test in the house because there was a direct exposure, best friend or somebody in the class that has COVID, and everybody else is not. Like the classes are not closed anymore, so there are some classes. I do have numbers of classes. I think there's one actually as of today. There's one school that is closed, and I don't think there's any classes that are left that are closed for COVID reasons. So
interesting.
Well, you hear directly from parents because they post to you and send you letters that otherwise we might not even have ever found out about the government doing anything. So, are you seeing a trend in particular in schools? Is the number getting bigger and bigger day to day?
That is for sure. Everything I publish comes from the Western School Board, from English Montreal, from Lester B, everybody that's been very transparent from the get-go, some French schools as well, some private colleges that publish to parents like numbers that come out of their portals for absenteeism. And yes, all of them I'd say before the mid-March period, during the break, of course, it was 0. And then before that, it was on the decline. And since March 15th, it's been going exponentially up. So I predict that in the next 2 weeks, we'll continue seeing very high numbers in schools as these protocols are loosened and not tightened.
Oh, now listen, I know schools are your focus, but I did see a tweet not long ago about the situation in CHSLDs as well, that you've been tracking that. So things are getting worse there as well.
Yeah, they're getting worse, and I'd say that they're constant in CHSLD, but they're deteriorating very fast in they call the RPAs. Which is the private ones.
The private ones.
The RPAs are the résidences de personnes âgées are in the thousands. I think it's 1,700 as of today. So yeah, there's lots, and I think that's why Dr. Boileau is accelerating the 4th dose for 80 plus and the RPA/CHSLD.
Yeah, interesting, because I just played a clip earlier on today. We just found this out today. The U.S., the FDA there is now suggesting or authorizing that 4th dose for people over the age of 50, where here we're talking about people over the age of 80.
So before we let you go, I'd like to ask, Olivier, what you would like to be seeing done right now by our government. What kind of measures would you like to see?
If I only had one wish, it would be mask. If I had many wishes, it would be ventilation, massive investment as part of the overall actions that need to take place. I mean, we've had as a society a lot of debate around personal freedom and curfews and all of that. But if you think about it, the one the one and the most effective measure that we can all take as a society to win against COVID is to improve air quality, and we're not doing that. So, I mean, that would be my number one, but granted, that probably won't happen. Very easy to do. Continue using masks and ideally N95 or KN95 masks. My daughters are, I will tally that a lot of the teenagers are continuing to wear them even though they're not mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, all I say every time we talk to is, Olivier, thank goodness you're doing this.
Seriously.
And keep up the good work, because it's important work. And I think, maybe parents hearing this perhaps did not have an idea. Natasha, you have a daughter in school who comes home every day. Do you have any clue this was going on?
She tells me that there's more and more kids missing from her school. Yeah, I've reached a point, sad to say, I asked her to keep wearing her mask as long as she's comfortable wearing it, but I also have gotten to a point where I almost can't take it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Where I've stopped listening because it just gets me so nerve-wracked when she tells me that more teachers and more kids are out. It's the worst approach. You need to take the information in. You need to know.
Olivier, thank you so much. Appreciate it today.
Always a pleasure.
Take care. Olivier DROUIN. That site again is COVID Écoles, plural, COVID Écoles, Quebec.